It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. We have a question today from Assassinioian. I don't know how to pronounce this name, but it's got lots of S's in it. At first I read through this and I thought, this sounds like a pretty simple question, but let's complicate it as we tend to do, because this is my channel. I say what I want. There's nothing you can do about it. So here we go. Our friend says, "Hi Ramsey, here's my question. What makes a martial art effective? I've gone back and forth consistently with people debating what martial art is more effective. However, I recently had a realization that style isn't important. It's simply down to how it's trained and pressure testing. Is this something you would agree with, or do you think individual styles are superior to others? Thanks." All right, my friend, I think that's a very important realization you've had, but it's a little more nuanced than that. Let's throw that word nuance in the trash for the time being, because it's going to be a lot more cut and dry than what you might think. Do styles matter? Yes and no. Here's why no, as you rightly pointed out. How you train, if you pressure test. I hate the word pressure testing. I never use it. If you're sparring, if you're drilling, if you are working with human bodies that are fighting you in some capacity to try to achieve your objectives, you're going to learn infinitely more than you would with mannequins. So that's pretty obvious. Now, do the styles matter? Yeah, they kind of do. And even within a style structure that has the same name. Let's look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example. Is all BJJ created equal? No. Some schools are objectively better than others. Look at competition records, for example. This can show you, if you're looking for a sport jiu-jitsu school that's going to give you the best chance of winning tournaments, getting gold medals, then you probably want to look for patterns of success and go with the guys who tend to win more gold medals than the guys who don't. Now, is that all there is to it? Well, you have to ask yourself, what are the guys who are winning more consistently doing different? So I recently looked at a Facebook post from my friend Dan Lukart. He runs a jiu-jitsu gym in Brea, California called Brea Jiu-Jitsu. And it's an awesome place to train. Dan is a cool guy. He's a very competent coach. And he knows what he's doing. And he put up a post on behalf of one of his students, who's currently a brown belt, a very prodigious, talented young athlete. And he wants this young man to improve. And so he basically asked his friends in the jiu-jitsu community, I need to send this guy elsewhere to train, because everybody in this area is kind of inbred with the same style and the same techniques and the same tricks. We need to send him elsewhere to get a different look, different exposure to different systems. And I thought, wow, that's so interesting. What a phenomenal coach Dan is, because instead of being like, you're mine, your soul is mine, you must stay at my school and never train with anyone else, he wants his athletes to be the best they possibly can. And so he's trying to give this young athlete the best possible experience he can with as many different styles of jiu-jitsu as he can. Because it's not just one style just because it says BJJ up on the front of the shop, right? Now, a lot of people don't know this. If they've never trained in any martial art, they assume any gym that says BJJ or karate or taekwondo teaches a uniform system that is exactly the same. Now, I'm probably going in a very different direction than what you expected. You probably expected me to say, well, karate and taekwondo and kung fu styles and jiu-jitsu, whatever. At the end of the day, it's all just fighting, so if you practice fighting, you're going to be good at fighting, and kind of, but I had an experience recently. I went to Australia with a few other martial arts YouTubers, Rokas from the Martial Arts Journey channel, Icy Mike from Heart to Hurt, Sensei Seth from his eponymous channel, and Jeff Chan from the MMA Shredded channel. And, it was an interesting experience. Stay tuned to the Martial Arts Journey channel. He'll be posting a whole bunch of videos about what we did down there. This crazy thing called the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship. That was a whole thing that happened. But after the competition, I got together with Rokas and we recorded some videos. He'll probably put them up on his channel, where we were discussing the concept of functionalizing Aikido, which is something he's talked about on his channel from time to time. If you're not familiar, Rokas has a background in Aikido. So he spent like 15 years as an Aikido instructor, and then he closed his shop and decided to learn how to fight for real because it wasn't working out for him. He wanted to be able to use his martial arts in effective ways against not just compliant training partners who train in the regular Aikido style, but anyone. And I think that's a worthy goal. That's awesome. So we got together and I was about to say shared notes. There were no notes, just kind of improv for a while and saw what we could make more functional, or what worked, what didn't. And a lot of these things that I was throwing at him were techniques you see in many different martial arts. Wrestling, for example, sambo, judo, jiu-jitsu, aikido as well. And I didn't even think of it as aikido, but he was like, oh, that's like this thing in aikido. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Except the setup is different. The strategy is different. The pressure is different. It's the same, but it's completely different, right? So in many ways, martial arts are the same, but completely different. Think about karate for a moment. Karate has these forms, like the high block. Taekwondo has that too. Many Korean styles based on Shotokan karate have that same move because they all use the same forms, arranged in different ways. And if you look up bunkai for the high block, you'll see dozens of different interpretations of what that is, and some of them are silly, some of them kind of make sense. And but if you ask these guys, how many of you have actually used this in live sparring or in a real fight, most of them will scratch their heads and say, well, no, not really, but I believe in it. Which is kind of a strange thing to say. So, does the technique you are using matter? Of course it does. Of course it does. I could show you my own bunkai for the high block, and I think it's a pretty good one, and I have used it. In actual live sparring against people trying to hurt me. And it works pretty well for me. I could show it to you, and you might think, I don't think I would ever be in that situation. I wouldn't, because I don't like to fight at that range. That's okay. You don't need to. Do styles matter? Yeah, they kind of do. Why else? For the obvious reason, let's look at kickboxing and jiu-jitsu. They're kind of polar opposites. If you are in a stand-up fight, and that's it, kickboxing is a great style to use. If somebody takes you down and puts you on your back and tries to pin you there, kickboxing doesn't have the answers you're looking for, but jiu-jitsu does. So do styles matter? Yes, of course they do. But then there's the styles within the styles that I alluded to before. Because not all karate's equal. Not all jiu-jitsu is equal. Not every gym is equal. Some gyms are, once again, objectively better than others. And I meet a lot of guys who are pretty mediocre at fighting, but they pat themselves on the back because they say, at my gym, we pressure test and we spar. That's good. That's good that you do that. Is that all there is to it? No, obviously not. Think about, let's go back to jiu-jitsu again, because it's a martial art that pats itself on the back a lot for having really good skill level relative to the belt level. For example, at the first colored belt, blue belt, a jiu-jitsu athlete is expected to be competent at grappling. So if you take someone who doesn't know how to grapple and have them grapple against a blue belt, the majority of the time the blue belt is going to kick their butt. But if you take, for example, other martial arts, let's take Taekwondo, for example. The first colored belt in the World Taekwondo style is the yellow belt, after the white belt. If you put the average Taekwondo yellow belt, or even go a couple steps above, yellow, green, blue, let's go blue belt, why not? A Taekwondo blue belt, that's an intermediate rank. Take the average Taekwondo blue belt in a contest of kicking and punching against someone who isn't trained in kicking and punching. Will the Taekwondo blue belt win most of the time in a fight? I don't think we can say that. I don't think that's fair to say. I think a significant percentage of the time the Taekwondo blue belt will lose badly, and get embarrassed. Sometimes they might win. There are prodigious athletes who are Taekwondo blue belts. But just universally across the board, not so much. Even at the black belt level, if we go Taekwondo blue belt versus the Taekwondo... I'm stuttering here. Bear with me. All right, we've got a Taekwondo black belt, and we've got a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and we throw these guys against the average untrained person. The Taekwondo guy in a contest of striking against someone who doesn't train striking, and the Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Did I say blue belt again? I'm really stuck on blue, aren't I? The Jiu-Jitsu black belt against a completely untrained person in a contest of grappling. I would say 10 times out of 10, 100 times out of 100, 1,000 times out of 1,000, the Jiu-Jitsu black belt wins that contest of grappling. Okay? But the Taekwondo black belt in a contest of striking, just kicking and punching, and we could even go Taekwondo rules, just punching the body, kicking the head or the body, I would say a significant percentage of the time, they wouldn't win, especially if the other guy was athletic and got aggressive. So, why is that? Is it because Taekwondo sucks? A lot of Taekwondo schools suck. This is objectively true. And I think a lot of it has to do with belt ranks. And this is something I hate about Jiu-Jitsu also. I'm not hating on any martial art. I have a black belt in Taekwondo. I love Taekwondo. I spent many years training in Taekwondo. I use Taekwondo techniques to this day. I teach Taekwondo techniques to this day. But it's just a part of the puzzle. It's just a part of what I do. Think about Jiu-Jitsu videos on the internet, for example. Maybe type it in the search engine. Maybe I'll do that right now. Let's see what kind of Taekwondo... I keep confusing these words. What kind of search terms we get. Let's just look up BJJ. Okay. And what do we get? How to tie your belt. Jiu-Jitsu blue belt blues. Black belt with 28 years in BJJ versus 2-year blue belt. Jiu-Jitsu belts explained. Oh, finally, one that doesn't have belt in the title. This dude rolls with Jean-Jacques Machado. Okay. How to get started in BJJ. All right, that's interesting. I just read the top few, and the overwhelming majority were about belts. Not about how to learn jiu-jitsu, not about, how to do an arm bar or how to escape mount, just belts. What do belts mean? Belt hierarchies. Let's reinforce the belt hierarchies over and over again. Why is it that over half the jiu-jitsu content on YouTube is about belt hierarchies? That's weird, man. That is weird. Imagine if boxers did this. You want to learn boxing, so you go to YouTube and you type in boxing, how to learn boxing, and then like half of the content, over half the content is how to respect the hierarchy of leadership at the boxing gym. I mean, boxing doesn't have belts, but imagine if it did, and it was like, how do I know I'm a blue belt in boxing? It sounds stupid when you say it out loud, right? And yet this is the state of BJJ on the internet. Like, every other video is about belt hierarchies. What do belts mean? Let's read a few more. Again, how to tie your belt. There are a lot of how to tie. Apparently, people have trouble tying their belts in jiu-jitsu. This is actually true. This is shockingly true. How many people show up with their belt all crazy like, and I'm not talking about just not like a traditional Japanese knot, but just like all over the place in a way that won't even stay tight. I don't care how you tie your belt as long as it's functional, and there are some really dysfunctional belts that people end up tying. 5 Ways Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Changed My Life by Russell Brand. Okay, nothing to do with belts. Cool. He probably talks about belts at some point in that video, I bet. John Danaher, the knee drop BJJ technique. Okay. We have a technique video. Cool. Are You Making the Simple White Belt Mistake? By Brandon McCaughrean. I don't know how to say Brandon's last name. He's a cool guy. I follow him on Instagram and YouTube. I like his videos a lot. Not poking fun at him at all, but it's we love inserting belt ranks when discussing jiu-jitsu. It's we got one from Chewy right here. Should your attitude determine your belt promotions in BJJ? He's answering a guy's question. I love Chewy. He's an awesome guy. Again, not picking on him for mentioning belts, but it's just there so much on the internet. When you just look up jiu-jitsu, every other thing is about belts. Anyway, that's my rant about jiu-jitsu belts. Why do we spend so much time doing that over emphasizing skill, man? Maybe it's no coincidence that the guys who spend less time worrying about belts have greater skills, I would think, than the guys who do worry about belts. So it's one of the reasons I like Sambo videos. They never talk about their belts. They don't have belt ranks in Sambo. There are red Sambo uniforms and blue Sambo uniforms, so you know which competitor is which. The red guy has the red belt, the blue guy has the blue belt. It just means this guy is on that side, this guy is on that side. Go, let's fight, let's learn how to fight. So say what you want about Sambo, but they're not quibbling about belts. Man, I got sidetracked for a while on that belt rank rant. I almost forgot what your question was about. SSSNE on whatever your screen name is. Please tell me how to pronounce that. What makes a martial art effective? Effective training makes a martial art effective. Almost 19 minutes into this video and we finally get to the answer right. Typical Ramsey Dewey video for you. Effective training makes your martial art effective. So, as my friend Kyle Rozewski says, you can weaponize knitting with an intelligent game plan. And that's the difference between styles and gyms, is the intelligent game plan or the lack thereof behind them. It's not just about how hard you go and if you pressure test, it's how you do that. There are better ways to do that, worse ways to do that, right? If you do full-out sparring every day, you'll be dead in short time. So you have to program your sparring schedule intelligently and spend the overwhelming majority of it doing light contact sparring, but that's not going to mean very much to you. The same way shadowboxing won't mean very much to you if you don't have the context of experience. Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22 right there. This is one of the reasons a good coach is so valuable, because the good coach has the context of experience, presumably, so that he can help you get some yourself. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.